Hi everyone! Before I get started on today's topic, I want to give you a couple of reminders. The first one is regarding the discussions. So first, I'd like to say great job on the discussions that we've been having on the discussion forum. I have been really impressed because first of all, we have full or almost full participation every single week. And then secondly, I've been impressed by the caliber of the participation. So you guys are sharing really great insights and really great examples, and you're just really getting into it, which is amazing. The reminders that I have for you regarding the discussion are two. The first one is you need to aim to post a response to one of my questions by Wednesday of every week, and that is to give your colleagues a chance to read them and reply to them. And then by Saturday, engage in some other way. And then the second reminder is that after that first discussion that we had the very first week, I sent each of you an individual email with feedback just so that you could know how you're doing and know what the expectations are. Starting the following week, I am posting a summary of the previous week's discussion. So on Moodle, right under this video, for example, you'll see a summary of last week's discussion, and I urge you to read these. These are important. They'll take you about 5 minutes to read, but in them I have really extracted the insights from the discussion. They would be worth printing out and just keeping for your future use. The other reminder that I had for you is regarding assignments. So this week we have the email marketing assignment due. Instructions have been on Moodle for about a week now, and some of you have dropped into the class sessions to do some one-on-one work on them with me. Please continue to do that or make an appointment if you prefer. And then if you need to do an article presentation with your team because you did not get to do it before spring break, that is also due this week. I emailed all of the teams that need to do it right after spring break. And then continue working on your websites. I've been getting a lot of questions on websites, which tells me that you're getting the work done there. And of course, also let me know if you need one-on-one help with these. Okay, so what we're discussing today is online reputation management. And let's start with a definition. ORM is what we do to promote a positive brand image online through two things: increasing the visibility of positive information about our brand and managing negative information actively. And the first question that poses itself is that ethical to do, or is it manipulative? So let me tell you, my opinion is, and please take a moment to think about it before going forward if you'd like, is that yes, it is ethical if done right. It should be ethical. ORM should not be a way for companies to try to hide information that is true. It should not be a way for companies to engage in bad practices and then not be responsible or not hold themselves accountable for it. Quite the opposite. It should just be a way to highlight the good that they do and address anything that was not how they would have liked to behave in a transparent way, but in a way that's also fair. Sometimes negative information can be from an isolated incident, but can live forever online if you don't manage it well, long after the issue has been resolved. And we don't want that. Here are some ethical reasons for ORM, very legitimate reasons. And I won't go through every single one of them, but some of them are people like to do business with reputable companies. So that doesn't mean that we should pretend to be reputable. No, it means that we should act in a way that makes people want to define us as a reputable company, but then highlight that online. Likewise, employees want to work for reputable companies. Investors want to invest in reputable companies. And as I alluded to before, sometimes you can have one employee or one incident that really does not represent you, that does not mesh with your values, just something that went wrong, or one person that misbehaved or acted in a wrong way, and you really need to manage that. Okay, so the first step in ORM, or the number one thing that you need to do, is set up Google Alerts. You set up alerts to monitor the web. And let me show you an example. So let me use Glossier because that seems to be popular, or has been popular with you guys. So you go to alerts.google.com, and then you want to, first of all, set up an alert for the brand name itself. And you have different options that you can choose here. You can ask it, you can tell it to alert you just once a day, or once a week, or as it happens. Every time something new makes it onto the web, Google will send you an alert. You can let Google choose which sources automatically, which usually means all of them, or you can specify that you want alerts just from blogs, from news, from the web, only videos, only discussions, etc. You choose the language of your alerts. You choose which regions of the world you want the content to be coming from, or all regions. And then you choose whether you want all results or only the best results, and you specify the email address. Now, after you specify your brand, you set up an alert for your brand name, you want to set up alerts for every one of your products. So here are just a couple of examples. You want to go through and do that for every product. And then you want to set up alerts for your top employees and executives. So definitely your CEO. And then you want to set up alerts for keywords and even things that might not be positive, like definitely Glossier scam, because you would want to know if someone published something to do with Glossier scam. Now, if you do this thoroughly for a company, you will end up with dozens and maybe even hundreds of alerts. And that's okay, because it's someone's job, or at least a big part of someone's job, to do this. If it gets really out of hand, if you have a huge company and you find that you need to set up thousands of alerts, there are automated apps, automated platforms that do that for you, similar to the social monitoring platforms that we looked at last week. Okay, the next thing that you want to do is you want to watch the SERPs, or the search engine results pages for your brand. So besides getting automated alerts, every once in a while, you just want to go search on Google and see what is coming up. That's very important. So let's again see what is coming up just from Glossier. And we'll revisit this for a moment, but you want to quickly go through and make sure that there isn't anything really off, or that you wouldn't want here, or something that needs to be addressed. One example that was suggested that we look at is Virgin Atlantic. And look at that. That is a British-based airline, and you always expect, or if you're doing proper SEO, that your own website is going to be the first thing that comes up. Because of my location tag, I'm getting a result that is Virgin Atlantic flights from Birmingham. And then we're getting their social media, that's good. And then we're getting things that are not created by Virgin Atlantic, like their Wikipedia page, or, it might or might not be. And then over here, we're getting some not so positive press. So they might want to do something about that. They might want to address it in some way. So this is the type of thing that you do when you watch your SERPs. Okay. Now, when you find negative content on there, you want to respond to it. And when you respond to it, that's going to depend on where exactly the content is. So the article that we found for Virgin Atlantic, that would go in number 4 here. It's a press article. But you might also find negative content on review sites. You might find it on sites that are specialized in just reporting scams. You might find it on online forums. You'll obviously find stuff from time to time on social media, and so on and so forth. When you're responding, the number one thing to keep in mind is the 3 T's. Timeliness. Do not respond to a negative review 2 weeks later. Too much damage will already have been done. Your dissatisfied customer is going to be enraged instead of just dissatisfied. And timeliness is key. Transparency is number 2. Don't make silly excuses. Don't say things that are not true. Just start by apologizing. A lot of the time, the customer wants to be heard and wants to be validated, especially if something did go wrong. So just say, we're sorry, and how can we make this right, and go from there. And then the third thing is training. Make sure that you have designated people whose job it is to respond and that they are well trained. And training often is going to involve scenarios. If this happens, do that. If X happens, do Y. If Z happens, do A, etc. That's really important. You don't want your employees at a loss as to what to do, or not feeling that they are empowered to deal with situations because they're not well trained. Now, on the subject of training, these are some of the things that you might include in your responses, or when deciding how to respond to negative content. Don't be defensive. So like I said, apologize and take it from there. Try to take the conversation offline. So if there's a negative review, negative press, something on one of the scam reporting forums, you'll probably have noticed that companies often respond by saying, please contact us by direct message, or please call us at this number and we will be happy to address your issue. And that's because you don't necessarily want to have a public conversation. You want to have a one-to-one conversation with whomever has had the issue. And similarly, don't post responses that are actually going to optimize the search for that negative content, right? So you don't want to post a response that includes your brand name, for example, because then when people search for your brand name, that might come up. And you don't want to keep going in a back and forth 10 times. That's also related to number 2, because remember when we talked about SEO, how we said that one aspect that improves your SEO is recency of the content. So you don't want that. You don't want to do anything that will help that negative content's SEO. And that's all of that is related to these 3 points. And then if you get an invitation to be interviewed for an article, even if you think that it might not be the most positive of articles, usually 9 times out of 10, it's a good idea to honor the invitation, because if people are going to be talking about you or about your brand, it's often better to be part of that conversation. Okay, and then finally, the last thing that you want to do besides responding to negative content is actually create positive content. And that's why I said I want to go back to the Glossier SERP. You will find that, yes, the first search result is an ad by them, which is good. It's what we want to see. So they are actively creating positive content. The second search result is their website, but it's organically appears. And then what we see next is their social media, which is really good. They have very active social media. Social media is not is difficult to optimize searches for, but they've done it. And then we see a BuzzFeed article. So they are getting press. It's very positive press. And if you follow this link to look at the article, you'll see that their CEO, Emily Wise, is actually interviewed. So it's not exactly created by them, but they played a role in it. And that's what you want to do. Okay, that is what I have for you today. And I will see you on the discussion forum.